Hey there, thanks for tuning into DuckBricks. I'm Chris, and recently, LEGO released the brand new LEGO Wednesday sets, as well as the new Wicked sets, and there are a couple of really interesting decisions made when putting out these sets that made me want to dive a little bit deeper into them. One of those is the choice to include mini dolls versus minifigures. I want to investigate LEGO's current strategy of choosing when to use mini dolls versus figures, and where I think there actually might be some congruency between the two different types of figure building. And speaking of figure building, LEGO has just debuted a brand new type of buildable character, kind of similar to some of the other buildable characters we've gotten in the past, like Brickheads or even the superhero action figures, but something completely different for the Wicked and Wednesday sets. There are kind of very interesting decisions going into these two themes, a lot of similarities between them, so I wanted to dive deep into these and check them out, and thank you to LEGO for sending me the new Wednesday sets to review. Let's dive into it right now. Here are the new set waves for LEGO Wicked and LEGO Wednesday, and the one thing I really wanted to highlight here were the inclusion of these specialized new brick-built character figures. Unlike any other brick-built figure LEGO has really ever done before, these really stood out to me because they actually cross themes. There was one for Wednesday and there were a couple for Wicked, and seeing it actually be a brand new style for a LEGO Buildable character, I was really curious to see what LEGO was going to do with these and if it's going to continue as an actual buildable type of character, much like the Marvel and DC superhero buildable characters going into the future. And of course, as this channel really started off by focusing a ton on Bionicle, it made a lot of sense for me to really dive deep into what makes these new buildable characters so special, and could this mean a new type of play system for the LEGO theme? Retailing at $50 for the Wednesday figure and $55 for the Wicked figures respectively, these are basically large-scale depictions of the main characters of the themes, who also do appear in mini doll form throughout the sets. What's also really interesting to me is that for a couple of them, specifically the Wednesday figure, the way it is built is that it contains pieces to change the type of outfit the doll is wearing, almost like it's kind of like a dress-up buildable doll that LEGO has created themselves. The Alphaba and Glinda figure do not have the options to change the outfits, but they are pretty much wearing the iconic outfits from the movie, and of course, there are corresponding mini dolls that do come in the other sets that actually reflect these particular outfits that we can see in the film. Altogether, it's a really interesting set of different things that you can do with these figures, from changing them around to posing them to having them wield accessories, and there's a lot of new pieces made for them, so let's dive into them right now. Alright, let's take a closer look at both of the buildable figures as well as their mini doll counterparts, which do come in some of the larger mini doll based sets. The Wednesday set, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, contains enough pieces to change Jenna Ortega's dress from either the actual ballroom dance scene, which you can see right here, or the more standard outfit that she wore as a school uniform. Because of that, it contains 702 pieces and retails for $50 US. The Alphaba and Glinda figures, on the other hand, retail for $55 US, but actually have less pieces, 558 parts in total that make up both characters. Although, I guess they decided to charge a little bit more because you're actually getting two characters here instead of just one. Altogether, they make for a really interesting pair and a new style of buildable figures, each sporting some pretty interesting new parts. Let's take a closer look right now. Taking the Wednesday figure here first, I'll walk through the articulation and things that you can do with the model. First of all, you might notice that these models introduce a brand new face element. This is a specialized new piece which is actually pretty thick. I was surprised at how thick it was. That really is completely smooth, and they have an interesting type of decal design for the actual facial expression. If you compare it alongside the actual mini doll, it's not quite the same. Clearly, it is a completely different graphic style than the standard LEGO mini doll, even though they're depicting the same thing. As far as the dress goes though, you can clearly see that the mini doll and the buildable character have been pretty much designed with a very similar design aesthetic. They really were trying to mimic the style of clothes here and just kind of scale it up. So this almost feels like an alternative to a brick-built minifigure, except this time they're brick-built mini dolls. However, the most interesting element to me was the introduction of this piece. Now, this might actually look like two pieces at first, but what's very strange is that these are actually dual molded. Yeah, for whatever reason, they decided to dual mold these such that you cannot spin the hands around. I presume that they restricted the movement of the hands because they didn't want them spinning around too much with accessories in them and having the accessories not be able to support their own weight, but unfortunately because of that, the amount of articulation you can actually get out of the hands here is fairly limited. Of course, you can move the arms back and forth and splay them inwards and outwards, as well as move the elbows, which does help a lot in terms of being able to get the figures into different poses, but alas, you cannot spin the hands whatsoever. These are just one individual piece, and it's really interesting just how similar it is to the existing LEGO connector clip piece, just with a hand on the end. Now, this is going to become a lot more obvious when you see some of the other dual molded components because the hands are sometimes the different color than the sleeves, but we'll just start off by looking at this one here. You can move the head all around on a mixel joint, which you can see you can make it look side to side, up and down. This particular version of Wednesday actually has transparent black leaves utilized as the designs of the dress here, which I thought was super cool. That's why I chose to make this one, and I also felt like this dress was maybe the more iconic of it because it is the outfit from the iconic dance, so of course you have to have her in this particular outfit. And then the way the feet attach are very, very simple. It's just really attached to a Technic piece up there, and then you've got rods here to attach the headlight bricks to studs at the bottom, and it is surprisingly stable. Altogether, this is a remarkably posable figure. I went into this absolutely not expecting anything crazy in terms of posability, and it genuinely surprised me with just how posable you can get this figure. You can have the arms move around. It's actually very expressive in the way that you actually have the movements of the actual hands. Like you can put the hands on the hips like so maybe that's a little bit annoyed, and then you can have mid-dance kind of like this, so the hands are swaying back and forth, kind of going back and forth like that, and you can have the arms up, and altogether, there's a lot of really cool things you can do with it. That being said, as you're starting to notice, this might not be the best type of figure for play. It's not like a type of doll that little girls can play with and dress up because it actually is a little bit flimsy, especially when you have the dress being built. I don't really know how they could have fixed this by just using different building techniques, because obviously if you want to have the dress kind of go around the figure, they can really only be attached by one clip, but because of that, it's not the most sturdy figure to play around with. It kind of acts as an in-between between a dress-up figure and an actual play figure. Placing Wednesday back on the stand here, I do want to highlight the fact that it does actually come with a pretty nice amount of detail for the stand. I'm going to move the Wicked ones out of the way for now, just so we can focus in on this build. You can see it has the Nevermore Academy sticker on the top here. There's a really nice angled type of archway, which I think just looks really good on the model. You have a gravestone, a crystal ball, you have of course, the severed hand, aka Thing, who is, funnily enough, the same exact scale as the mini doll version. Like, they literally just did not even change the piece at all because the hands are just the same scale. So that's kind of funny. And oh wait, you know what else is weird about this? The Thing handpiece is another random new hand element that is just very slightly different compared to the actual hands that this figure has, which is really interesting. I don't know why they didn't just standardize it and make it such that you could even attach studs on the end of these, plus clips as well. Removing this piece right here showcases the fact that you can open up the two sides of the model to access some of the other pieces. You can see it comes with almost all the pieces to just make another figure. You've got a different expression for the head there without the eyelashes really made up, and then you've also got the dual molded hands with the black and this kind of specialized skin tone color being used for the hands there, and then on this side, you have all the other pieces to create the other outfit, where I managed to fit all of the pieces into here. Most of them kind of sit inside the cone, and then there's a special sticker where, again, if you do want to compare it to the mini doll version of the character, it's very, very close in the detailing here. Clearly, they were just trying to replicate the same detail that the mini doll has compared to the buildable figure, which is very interesting, seeing that amount of congruency on a model like this. Putting the two shelves back into the model, if you look at this as a whole, $50 for one figure is honestly not super bad considering the amount of stuff it's got going on for it all around the figure. You've got a displayable stand, you have Thing being included there as the special handpiece, you've got the typewriter, the crystal ball, the gravestone, as well as a fully posable figure, and I do only think that For $50, obviously a lot of those pieces are also going into the extra outfit change underneath, and you can only build one at a time, so maybe the value isn't 100% there for this one, but it actually is a pretty fun figure to play around with. But now let's take a look at the Wicked ones. Here's the Elphaba and Glinda set, which retails for $55 US, and this one does come with both of the main characters of the movie, as well as a really nice display stand. Again, super curious if this is going to become an ongoing thing for LEGO. Zooming in on the Elphaba figure here, you can see that you've got a hairpiece on the back, which you can kind of angle back and forth, and the main gimmick behind this set was that you actually have the accessories that you can place on the different characters, so you can take the iconic hat and place it on top of her head like so, and thankfully you actually can move the head around with a pretty good range of motion thanks to the mixel joint. You also have waist articulation on this one just because of the way it's mounted up, and of course she is holding her infamous broom in the hand there, which is thankfully not super hard to pose thanks to the ability to move around the elbow joint like so. Now, comparing this to the mini doll figure, which you can get in the Emerald City set, you can actually see that once more, the detail is really nicely done. They were able to really capture the amount of detail on the torso and the skirt elements, although very sadly, the very nice cloth piece that we do get for the mini doll is missing from the buildable figure. I think that is really the only thing that was kind of missing for me here, was that it would have been awesome to get a big fabric cape that kind of draped around the figure. That would have been super cool, but alas, they either didn't have the budget or just decided not to make a new custom cloth element for this one, even though I think that would have been really interesting to actually have a big scale figure cape, and one that would have been very useful for something like Bionicle as well. Taking a look at Glinda, she is built very similarly to the Wednesday figure for the dress and the ball gown, except this one is just a little bit more poofy. I do like the integration of these curved pink elements, which are relatively new. They're just really nice slopes to get. And of course, she does have the clear snowflake style of wand. You can move the head around and you can remove the crown or the tiara on the head and then choose to give it to a different character. Once more, the hair kind of cascades back here. You can have her look around back and forth, and overall, it's again a pretty nicely posable figure. This is almost like their answer to Brickheads, but in a mini doll form. It's also again kind of like their answer to making a brick-built minifigure like Giant Man from Captain America, except as a scaled-up mini doll. Well, this one obviously isn't one-to-one with a mini doll, like it's not like a big-scale minifigure. I think it actually works out pretty well for the type of figure they're trying to make. And once again, when we compare her to the counterpart that you can see in some of the sets, that torso printing is very similar. It's actually, is that identical? I think that's actually almost identical for the torso print there. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, and I think that really totally works for this type of character. Really interesting to see that just being pretty much the same design, and you can see the two characters next to each other, where the graphic design on these characters actually were done a little bit more interestingly compared to the Wednesday one in the fact that they really match the actual expressions the characters have. Like, the mini doll face here is almost identical to the large-scale figure face, as opposed to Wednesday where it was a lot more stylized. Removing the figures here, you can see you have a brick-built version of the Grimory, which is always good to get. There's a QR code there for you to listen to a special podcast while building, and the entire thing is framed against a nice reflective foil piece showcasing the Emerald City, which is just really cool presentation. I love the integration of the transparent green leaves for the Emerald City and the green-inspired design. This is just such a cool piece to get in trans green, and definitely a very interesting one. And there even is a little accessory for Glinda here. She can hold onto her purse, so if she holds that up, there you go. She has the purse attachment right there. With that though, let's move on to just taking a look at these figures together and get into my final thoughts on this new large-scale Constraction style figure for more girl-oriented themes. With the mini dolls back in place, again, these sets do not come with the mini dolls, I just wanted to showcase them for comparison's sake. I actually ended up liking these a lot better than I thought I would. When the images first came out, I really wasn't sure how I felt. They felt a little bit uncanny to me for a LEGO build. I wasn't really sure how they were going to play, but after actually having them in hand, I thought that they were a lot of fun to play with. They are surprisingly easy to pose, even despite the weirdness of there being just dual molding for the hands and not necessarily having the hands being able to rotate. And altogether, they're really interesting builds for figures. I would imagine that for future movies and maybe even for future LEGO themes, they would decide to do more stuff like this. I wonder if we're gonna ever see like the main characters from LEGO Friends be depicted in a style like this, or are they gonna focus primarily on pop culture characters like people from movies? Altogether, it's super interesting to see these as buildable figures. $50 for just one figure, though, is quite a lot of money, and yes, I do understand that, yes, you get the backdrop, you get all the pieces for a different type of outfit, but I would love to see how much LEGO would sell just one of these figures by itself. Like, I could even see it going for $15 to $20 for just the figure, and then everything else is just extra. $55 for two figures is a lot more palatable, and I do say that, saying that yes, there are a lot more pieces in the smaller set. There's 700 some pieces here, there's about 500 pieces here, but given that you get two different figures, two very different figures for $55, it definitely feels a lot more fair to me. And it's really cool to get these brand new elements as well, the hands, the faces, and everything that really make it feel like they're starting to go into a brand new system for this style of build. I'm very curious what folks think of these in the comments. Have you gotten a chance to build these yourselves? Have you built them? What do you think of them? What do you think of the new pieces? Do you think that this could be a sort of Constraction style of build for more girl-oriented themes? What will LEGO be doing with these in the future? And I'm very curious myself. With that, we've summed up my look at these buildable figures, but while we're at it, we might as well look at the Wednesday and Wicked sets as well, because I got them all here. This right here is 76781 Wednesday and Enid's dorm room. It comes with 4 mini dolls, 2 different outfits for Wednesday and Enid, which are stored down at the bottom right here, which is very nice to see, and a number of brand new elements, such as a big, transparent clear windscreen, a new molded gargoyle, and a ton of other stuff to factor into this playset. The set itself comes with 750 pieces and retails for $90 US. Rotating it to the backside, you can see that this set was clearly designed around the juxtaposition of styles in both the dorm rooms. Having seen the TV show itself, I actually think this is a pretty solid depiction of the interior space. You have the very nice and cozy area of the werewolf Enid's area for her room, with all sorts of stuffed animals and bright colors, and of course she has colored half of the window rainbow for her own palette. And then on the other side you have Wednesday, who is having much more of a refined and a much darker color palette that feels just a little bit more drab as the comparison to the actual other side of the room. You have her classic instrument right here, the cello or violin, which is really, really nicely done in black. Very cool to get that. A jukebox playing some music, just a standard rug, a typewriter, and a lantern. So again, really cool to see the juxtaposition of the two different sides here. And this just makes for a really fun LEGO set to be able to see both sides of the room. Of course, on the top here, you have a hint towards the TV show's main plot, where they were trying to figure out who the mysterious killer was. And of course, that also plays into some of the other accessories featured in the rest of the set. Altogether, it's a pretty nice and cozy area for the dorm room. I think it's a pretty clever way to depict the room itself, and I like how the exterior actually does look pretty good. Like, on display, this is pretty solid on its own, and it feels like this is just begging to be expanded into a much larger building. I also really appreciate the inclusion of the extra mini dolls down here. If you look downstairs, you can actually see these special compartments which contain different types of outfits. You have Wednesday in the party dress for the iconic dance sequence, a printed tile showcasing the main villain of the entire piece. You also have a drink here, as well as the black rose, which is a very important aspect of the character. Over on Enid's side here, you also have the party outfit where she has colored the hair pink. You have her cell phone, the pen, as well as another cup, and yeah, just kind of cool to get 2 different mini dolls with accessories. And then of course you have the main mini dolls up top. I feel like the characters really nicely reflect the actresses' likenesses, especially the Jenna Ortega face here is just really, really nicely done. I feel like they just really were able to capture the essence of the character there. Of course, the new hairpiece introduced for the set is really great as well, and one of my favorite parts has to be the inclusion of Thing, who is of course just a severed hand as a brand new element. Only a shame that they did not allow you to grip bars with this. I don't really know why they chose to do that, but yeah. Cannot grip any bars with this, it can only attach to studs. I guess that had something to do with like piece tolerances, if I had to imagine, but it is a bit disappointing. While Enid is a little bit more generic in her design, I do also think that the actress's face and features are really nicely reflected here in the character, and they did come out with a new print just for this character, so that was really important. These little miniature gargoyle molds are going to come in very handy for LEGO Batman related items, and altogether, it's a pretty solid set. The only complaint I have, really, is the price. It is very, very expensive for the amount of stuff that you get, and I get that you get this brand new windscreen piece that's printed, you get the new molds, you get the 4 mini dolls, but it's just a lot of money to ask for. I feel like $70 would have been a lot more fair for something like this, and that's just what I feel about the model. But now let's take a look at the Wicked sets. This right here is the smallest LEGO Wicked set. It is Elphaba, Nessarose, and Glinda at Shiz University. It retails for $30 US and comes with 304 pieces, and shout out to LEGO Masters, this was designed by a fellow alum of the LEGO Masters TV show, who now works as a LEGO designer. The really interesting thing about this is that the set features specialized clips that don't seem to connect to anything, so I imagine that this is probably going to connect to a much larger Shiz University set that it's probably going to be releasing next year or whenever the second movie comes out, because we already do have a list of rumored sets for that, and that is definitely going to be one of them. Moving on though, this is of course depicting the very first arrival of Glinda to the university. You have her in her first outfit here. Again, really nice hairpiece to get there. I think this is a very solid new element to get that really nicely depicts the character's features. You have the detail for metallic pink on the dress, and of course her stacks of many boxes on the boat as well. It also comes with these specialized little vinyl elements to showcase the sails of the boat here, which are really nice. And it's very cool to get this boat element in coral because it is basically the classic LEGO rowboat. Moving on to the front entrance gate though, this is surprisingly pretty detailed for what it is. This kind of might come across as a pretty simple set, but the amount of detail factored in here is really impressive. Moving the mini dolls aside, you can see that the set is basically having all sorts of great detail here with the banisters and just really nice ornate detail with the markings on the sides. The way the columns are done is really cool, and of course you have teal and the light and the bright yellow as well, being just a really nice color scheme to get here, plus the S for Shiz. On the back here, there is a nice little area with a QR code to scan to listen to some more details in the back, as well as just some potions, and while it is very narrow, altogether, $30 is not a bad price for the set, given the amount of detail actually factored into the build to really make the entrance gate come alive. The mini dolls included are pretty good depictions of the characters. I think Nessarose's expression is almost a little bit too cheery compared to how she is in the film, but I guess it works out okay. It is a brand new face created for her, but the other two for the main characters, like Glinda and Elphaba, are really done fantastically well. Elphaba here has the specialized hairpiece, which you can see right here, is a special version of the hair made specifically for this character for the set, and the robes really do look like how she appears in the movie, so it's really just well done. Altogether, this is a pretty nice entry into the Wicked theme, but there are bigger and better things to come, so let's take a look at the next set. The next set here is 75683 Glinda and Elphaba's Dormitory. It comes with 740 pieces and retails for $70 US, as well as including 2 mini dolls, technically 4 mini dolls, because it does have a change of outfits for each of the characters. The outside here is meant to be a trunk or like a makeup box sort of thing, which is just a really nice small design. It is very compact, but obviously this is hiding some secrets. You can see you have both main characters represented here. You have a pink flower for Glinda, the green vial for Elphaba, one of the most iconic parts of the Wicked franchise, all fully brick built in large form, and then you have this little hidden away container up at the top where once you remove it, you may notice that there is a change of outfits for both characters, which we'll take a look at in a little bit. And the way this works is that you open up the latch, but look, you can't open it up until you get the silver key here. You can place it in, turn it up, and there you go, boom, the entire thing opens up. It's actually a pretty nice design. It's nothing we really haven't seen before, it's just utilizing the same exact locking and key mechanisms that we've seen from the LEGO Disney storybooks, but it actually is pretty nice in the way it's built out. Altogether, once opened up, this is a pretty nice representation of the interior of the dorm. I do find it funny how both of these theme sets contain kind of a split dorm of two characters living together with very different aesthetics, although of course true to the movie, most of it is very pink for the interior. You have a rotating little area here for Glinda with the special QR code on reflective sticker on the back there to showcase some audio that you can listen to while building. You've got some reflective mirrors. In fact, almost everything about the stickers here are fully reflective, which is actually really nice. You have a nice build for the bed on Glinda's side, a flower which overhangs the bed, kind of a flower lamp, which you can see right here. And then on Elphaba's side, you just have a very, very simple bed with the sand green rug. You have the vial right here by the foot of the bed, and really that's pretty much all there is to see with these particular designs. It's a very just simple style of build on the inside, but I actually do quite like how you can pose up all the figures, and it makes for a pretty interesting style of display piece that is just a bit different than your standard kind of regular playset style build. It just offers something a bit more unique. Taking a look at the mini dolls, you have two different outfits for both of the main characters. First off, we can take a look at Elphaba here, who is wearing this sand blue robe, which you can see is just taken directly from the movie. But then, if you open up the actual additional outfits in here, you can choose to switch out the head and instead have her wear a specialized robe. This is kind of like a darker robe, similar to one that she wore at the dance, and of course you can place the iconic hat on the top, or you can choose to have her just with the standard hair. This is a bit of a missed opportunity to me to just not include a different expression for the characters. I feel like it would have just made so much sense to include just two copies of each character, literally do what they did with the exact same thing for the Wednesday set, but alas, the rest of it just remains as outfits, and right now, the only interchangeable parts are the heads. You just have a torso and legs and an extra hairpiece for Elphaba to go along with them. For Glinda, you have her standard pink outfit here with the really nice new hairpiece made for the character. Obviously, it is decorated with all sorts of roses, and you even have a book opening up with a special exclusive printed tile in it, which is very nice that I'm sure is going to be very useful for LEGO Castle style stuff. Of course, you can take off the head and place her in a much more vibrant party dress here. This one is bright coral, which is really nicely done with printing extending all along the sides of the dress. It's just a really nice design for the piece, and one that is just a nice additional outfit for her to wear, even though the main pink one is probably a little bit more iconic. Altogether, it's a nice little set, and I do like the detail added in to really make it feel like it is the inside of their room. It is 740 pieces for $70, which does feel pretty fair to me, and of course, we can now close it up and move on to the next build. Lastly, we have the big one. 75684 is welcome to Emerald City with 945 pieces, 5 mini dolls, and $100 as the retail price. It includes Glinda, Elphaba, Fiyero, as well as the infamous Wizard and Madame Morrible, rounding out the entire cast of the film. This is the first time we have actually gotten the Emerald City depicted in LEGO form, and it looks really, really good. One thing that I really wanted to get at one point was a large 18+ gigantic Emerald City, and while this obviously isn't that, it's more of a playscale version of the city, I just love the vibrant colors here and how alive it feels. Thankfully, for the Wicked for Good sequel sets, we do have rumors of an 18+ $200+ set, and what else could that be other than a giant Emerald City, so maybe my dreams will be answered by the Wizard very soon. We're going to start by taking a look at the mini dolls, actually. I'll start by looking at the Wizard because they actually were able to really replicate a fantastic appearance for him. He does actually look like Jeff Goldblum somehow with the face, which is really well done if you look at the amount of detail here. He has either a dark green top hat, dark green is new for the set, or a hairpiece included, and just pretty nice detailing all around the character, so really well done. Madame Morrible is also done very nicely. She is, for whatever reason, just using the standard kind of light nougat skin tone instead of the typical skin tone they use for Asians, which is a little bit strange, but I guess it works out for the character, for the way that she appears in the movie. She has a really nice dark green and gold dress, which looks fantastic, and an exclusive new hairpiece made specifically just for the character as well. Glinda is sporting her iconic pink dress here with actually utilizing the Disney princess's dress element, and she has this really nice transparent opalescent sparkle crown piece for the wand, as well as that new hairpiece. The Wicked Witch, of course, Elphaba does contain her broom, and this is the most fully outfitted version of the character with a beautiful cape. This is actually a slightly different type of fabric, the way that they've done it, it's just a little bit more smooth on the inside, and you can choose which way that you want to actually have it be oriented, if you want to have the fabric piece on the back or the front. So if you flip it around, it does give a little bit of a different look where it feels just a lot more cozy around the shoulders. You can see the type of cloth being used for the fabric here is completely different than the normal LEGO cape piece, and it's very similar to like the Sensei Wu 2019 special cape that he had in the Ninja Land Bounty, which is always a plus because it looks very, very good on the character. Altogether, I think these are the best characters to get. I guess we have Fiero too. He's pretty good. I mean, he's all right as a mini doll. I think that the male mini dolls are never really the most unique or detailed, and this one definitely, I think it would have been really cool to get these all as minifigures, but this one is still pretty nice. I think he does look like how he does in the movie. The hairpiece is pretty perfect, and for whatever reason, he is riding the bike into the Emerald City as well. Starting off with this miniature build of the bike, I think it is pretty solid for what it is. You can see it's selling Ozpressos and Taffacinos. Very cool to see that, as well as just all sorts of different nice little pieces integrated into the top of the bike. But the real fun starts when we get to the Emerald City. You can see the sign that says Wizamania here, and the actual stores are somewhat modular. They attach via Technic pins. This one is a specialized store utilizing a printed element for the clock there, which is really nice. You can sit down for tea, and on the inside of the store, you can see it actually is a bit of a library as well, where you can see all sorts of different books. You can even slide this book out and see a nice story being told inside there. Nothing exclusive, but it is nice to have an actual removable book from the bookshelf there, as well as just a number of sweets that you can take a look at. On the other side, you have a perfume store, so all sorts of different perfumes are on the shelves here. You've got a nice mirror to actually see yourself in, so I guess it's makeup and perfume, and there's a nice little area to enjoy some apple picking around the tree, which is just a nice little touch. Altogether, this is just a very charming little build. I really do like the small stores at the front, and then once you enter the main palace for the wizard, you can see that you have a miniature model of the hot air balloon right here. Very cool to see that hovering there, as well as some sweets, although a front door or gate would have been really nice because that was a very memorable part of the movie. Moving onwards to the upper floor, you have another part of the movie here, which was the small-scale Emerald City diorama, a nice little decal of Jeff Goldblum's wizard right there in transparent green, and then you have the Grimmery being showcased here as a triangular-shaped book. And of course, you have the face of the wizard up here. Having this be mounted on like mixel joints I think would have been really ideal, allowing it to kind of look back and forth. Alas, it is only mounted just on single studs, so that is a bit of a miss, but it's not that big of a deal, not the end of the world by any means, and it is really nice to actually get this version of the wizard. And then finally, the upper level just has a place for Elphaba to glide off on her broomstick as she is singing, but especially one thing I want to highlight here are the usage of new transparent green elements to really make this city come alive. They recolored the plant element in transparent green for the palm tree leaf, which looks so good. You have the corner slopes being used as well for the 1x2s, and you even have the windscreens being recolored in transparent green, and all of that just culminates in a really fantastic looking display that is just a great stand for the minifigure as well to be bursting out of the window there. It's a really solid set, and for $100, it is pretty substantial given that you get all of the main characters of the movie, as well as a pretty decent and very eye-catching Emerald City build. This was the set I was most looking forward to build out of the lineup, and it does not disappoint. I'm a big fan of how they were able to depict all of the different characters, as well as just the allure of the Emerald City, the bright greens, the different colors of transparent greens, all being used to make this feel otherworldly, and I certainly cannot wait to see if LEGO is cooking up an even bigger version for the new year. And with that, we've about summed up my thoughts on these specialized new Wicked and Wednesday sets, and particularly on the brand new buildable figures, which are certainly some of the most interesting new LEGO items to have been released. I certainly am very excited to see if LEGO will continue to put out stuff like this. I think that they are absolutely a success. I'm very curious if they sold well, if young kids have been gravitating towards them, if they've been liking this type of design, and if we will see any more, and if so, of what characters. That's all for this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, and bye for now.